Hello, and welcome to Sleepy Tales by John, a place where we listen, unwind, and gently drift into sleep. I'm your host, John, and I want to thank you, truly, for joining me tonight. Because tonight, we're taking a quiet little walk across the moon. A place of deep black silence where nothing rushes and nothing stirs too loudly. These wandering companions drift around planets big and small, raising tides, stirring atmospheres, and hiding secrets beneath their frozen crusts. Some moons are old and scarred, carrying memories that span billions of years. Others are young and radiant, glowing with the wild energy of volcanoes, ice, or shimmering fountains of water. And our own moon is just the gentle, opening chapter in that vast, quiet story. Farther out, you'll find Triton, with its hazy methane seas, amber-tinted like stained glass. Europa hides a bottomless ocean beneath its pale shell of ice. And Enceladus sends sparkling jets into space, fireworks of water and light, each plume a whisper from the world beneath. Some moons are shaped like potatoes, some are feather-light like sponges, and some even glow under their own auroras. A few of them may be holding the earliest chemical hints of life deep inside. And if these drifting journeys make you feel peaceful in any way, you're welcome to leave a gentle like or a small note of encouragement in the comments. But for now, you don't have to do anything at all. Just let your mind soften, let your breath slow, and let these distant moons guide you into a quiet night. If you're ready, we'll begin. Before you, those small worlds begin to appear, little points of kind light, as if waiting for you. And among all the moons the universe has shaped, there is one so familiar that we sometimes forget its beauty. One companion that has watched over Earth since its earliest days. So before we drift too far, let tonight's journey begin with the place closest to home, the moon. The silent old friend who has followed us across every night sky. Imagine yourself standing on a quiet patch of grass. No car horns, no city lights, just you. And the sky stretched out like a soft black blanket. Suspended in the stillness above, the moon hangs gently, like an old lantern of the night. Its light isn't harsh, it's just enough to wrap the world in a soft ring of silver. Take a slow breath in and exhale. Let that calm seep into the spaces inside you that daylight never had time to reach. The moon you're looking at isn't as still as it seems. It's slowly drifting away from Earth, little by little, almost 3 centimeters each year. It sounds slow, but stretch that over hundreds of millions of years, and you'll see that the moon once hovered so close, it looked twice its current size. Tides were enormous, ancient coastlines stirred endlessly. When you imagine that, you may feel the moon as a friend who has grown up with Earth, through a fiery childhood and into a peaceful old age. Long, long ago, the moon even had a thin atmosphere. Gentle winds rising from glowing lava once brushed across its surface. Those seas of molten rock have cooled now into the dark regions we call seas. Merer tranquillitatis, merer serenitatis, names that sound like ancient lullabies. Places that once burned fiercely now sleep beneath 14-day nights. The moon once breathed, once shifted, and then gradually fell still. Looking at it now feels like looking at an old memory of the solar system, like gazing into the eyes of a storyteller who has lost their voice but still holds a lifetime of tales. If you flew to the permanently shadowed craters at the moon's south pole, you'd find pits that have never received a single ray of sunlight. Temperatures drop so low that every molecule of water freezes solid. Those hidden pockets of ice may have existed for billions of years, like wells of memory never opened. Lunar dust is sharp as powdered glass, clinging to everything. Astronauts said it smelled like burnt gunpowder, a dry, harsh scent, strange and unforgettable. And yet, in their voices you can always hear a kind of affection, because no matter how harsh it is, the moon is the home of humanity's first steps beyond Earth. And as you look at it glowing quietly above, you might not realize that it is the reason Earth is so stable. Earth's axis remains tilted at a gentle, life-friendly angle, because the moon keeps it from wobbling. Without this companion, Earth's climate could have swung wildly, seasons unpredictable, life struggling to take hold. The moon is like an invisible hand resting lightly on Earth's heartbeat, keeping everything steady. Just as the moon slowly shifts, our lives do too. Always changing, yet always offering you a steady rhythm within yourself. When you breathe in, imagine the moon lifting a tide inside your chest. And when you breathe out, the tide falls, your thoughts settling softly with it. A slow, ancient rhythm, just like the moon's patient love for Earth across billions of years. You can look at the moon as a great mirror of yourself, sometimes full, sometimes half, sometimes a thin slice of silver, but never gone. It only changes how it shows itself and always returns, whole and bright. Let that image drift gently across your mind. Let your breath soften like its quiet light, and let your heart find stillness. Like a low tide beneath the night sky. If you're ready, we'll drift away from our lunar friend and begin moving outward, toward places where light must travel millions of kilometers just to reach your eyes. There are moons unlike anything you've ever imagined. Hidden oceans, frozen worlds, the deep, quiet breath of potential life beneath icy shells. And now, let's step into the next part. A place of secrets never spoken. The oceans hidden beneath cold crusts of ice, waiting for the day they are touched by light. So now, close your eyes and imagine yourself standing at the edge of an endless stretch of water. No waves, no currents, no sound, only a mere still surface reflecting the pale glow of a distant star. You lean forward, and instead of diving into real water, you slip into silence itself. Slowly, gently, like a leaf sinking to the bottom of a lake. That is the feeling these subsurface oceans carry. Worlds of water nothing like Earth sees, yet filled with the potential for life that science is still trying to understand. Let's begin with Europa, the moon of Jupiter. From afar, Europa resembles a cold white glass sphere. Bright, smooth, fragile. Long cracks cross its surface like ancient lines etched into porcelain. Strange, delicate, and beautiful. Move a little closer, and you realize every one of those lines is a sign of the vast oceans stirring beneath. A body of water that may hold more than all of Earth's oceans combined. If you placed your hand against the ice, you might feel a faint tremor, like the heartbeat of that hidden world pulsing beneath the frozen shell. Europa is like a locked room whose walls conceal the sound of a life that hasn't yet spoken. And sometimes, just imagining that is enough to open your heart a little, because somewhere beneath that ice, warm currents may be moving, organic molecules drifting, and perhaps the early stories of life being written in silence. Farther still lies Enceladus, Saturn's small but wondrous moon. If Europa is a sleeping world, Enceladus is a spirit eager to tell its tale. At its south pole, long, warm fissures, tiger stripes, send plumes of water, ice, salts, and organic material spraying into space. Imagine standing on that white, icy ground, watching those fountains rise like luminous geysers in the cold night, shimmering under the dim light of the faraway sun. Beautiful, in a way that makes you want to fall silent, so your heart can feel without interruption. And the most magical part is this: those frozen droplets eventually fall back down and form one of Saturn's most delicate rings, the E-ring. Every tiny grain of ice from Enceladus becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of the entire solar system. Just thinking about that kind of tenderness can ease the mind, like watching a snowflake melt in your hand. As for Ganymede and Callisto, Jupiter's other great moons, they carry a quiet beauty, like ancient books. Imagine opening a thick, old volume with many layered pages. Ganymede is the same: ice, water, stacked in silent layers, each one holding mysteries untouched for eons. Callisto is stranger still. It has barely changed in billions of years. The scars, the craters, the impact rings, they all remain exactly where they fell, like a memory painting no one has ever altered. These worlds, Europa, Enceladus, Ganymede, Callisto, are each sealed oceans, deep realms of water imprisoned beneath ice. No one knows what stories unfold inside them. But the most beautiful truth is this: no matter how cracked or scarred their surfaces appear, beneath them is always water, always movement, always life's possibility. And that is why, in this moment, I want you to look inward, the way you look at these moons. Your surface, the mind, the thoughts, the emotions, may carry the marks of a long day, the little wounds that haven't healed yet. But deep inside, you still hold a quiet sea, a place untouched, a soft, warm, gentle current, always ready to welcome you home. Imagine yourself sinking into that water. The deeper you go, the more the noise fades. Worries drift away. Only your breath remains, and the silence wraps around you like the heavy, comforting water of an underground ocean. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to remember every name. Just know this: just as these moons carry oceans of potential life, you carry an ocean of peace within you. Leaving the quiet, hidden oceans of Europa and Enceladus behind, you may feel as though your mind has just risen up from beneath the surface after a long, gentle journey through soft darkness. Your breathing becomes a little deeper, a little lighter, and the space around you seems to brighten by the faintest shade, as if you were drifting from deep water into a different kind of sky. In that new light, a hazy orange region begins to take shape, like a dream that hasn't yet been given a name. And that is Triton, the largest moon of Saturn, where the sky is not blue, water is no longer water, and each step feels like entering a fairy tale from a parallel world. Close your eyes for a moment and let me take you there, very slowly. Imagine yourself standing at a horizon that isn't painted in Earth's deep blue, but covered in a thick orange mist, soft and opaque, like lamplight shining through a fabric curtain. The light here is very weak, as if the sun were forever lingering near the horizon, never truly rising, never fully setting. Everything is stiller, colder, but beautiful in its own way, a kind of beauty that doesn't dazzle but sinks in, that doesn't blaze but wraps around you like a thin blanket, draped across the whole sky. Triton is one of the rare worlds in the solar system with an atmosphere thicker than Earth's. You wouldn't feel exposed here the way you would standing on the moon. The air is dense enough for you to sense the presence of the sky, not through warmth, but through a delicate weight, like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder, reminding you that there is still wind here, still movement, still stories quietly unfolding. And beneath this sky, Triton has rain, rivers, lakes, and seas, but no water. Everything runs on liquid methane and ethane instead. You can imagine the falling raindrops not as clear water breaking free from the clouds, but as smooth, heavy drops of oil, falling slowly and firmly. Their sound would likely be different too, softer, dull or sleepier, like footsteps on soft ground. On this distant and freezing world, a complete weather cycle still exists. Methane clouds drifting across the orange sky, rivers winding through frozen plains, shorelines lying still like black mirrors reflecting a faint golden light. All of this makes Titan feel like another Earth, an Earth inside a dream, where everything is familiar yet governed by entirely different rules. If you look down at the ground, you'll see mountain ranges made of ice, taller than the Rockies on Earth. The ice here isn't clear like winter lake ice. It's milky white, sometimes tinted with a faint orange haze from the thick atmosphere above. The feeling of touching it, in your imagination, would be both piercingly cold and strangely soft, like the smoothed surface of a stone worn down by an immense stretch of time. Now try taking a step, very slowly, as if you were walking inside a dream. Because Titan's gravity is so low, your footsteps would be lighter, springier, as if the ground were trying to lift you up instead of holding you down. Each step becomes a small meditation. Lift, release, touch, rise again. There is no need to hurry. Titan is not in a rush. And tonight, neither are you. Feel the cold air gently wrapping around you like a soft wind scarf. It doesn't make you shiver. It feels more like a quiet stillness, settling over every thought, every vertebra, every breath. Can you hear anything? Not the sound of the wind, not the sound of flowing water, but a very deep kind of calm, the kind that only exists in places where time seems to move more slowly. Titan is a lonely world, but not a sad one. It feels like a contemplative friend who has spent billions of years simply watching the sky, listening to the fragile sounds of wind and methane rain falling into dark lakes. And as you stand here, even if only in imagination, you become part of that stillness too. Picture yourself sitting down beside a lake of liquid methane, its surface black and still like glass, not a ripple. The pale orange sky is reflected in it, making the lake look like a smooth, muted veil. If you extend your hand, you can almost feel the chill seeping through an imaginary glove. But strangely, it doesn't push you away. It makes you want to linger, to feel more, because the sensation carries something that feels like rest. In its own way, Titan is a reminder that beauty does not only live in bright, lively places. It also lives in regions that are quiet, cold, slow, yet full of depth. A kind of beauty that doesn't try to impress, but simply exists. And that alone is enough to soften anyone who truly looks. And as you sit quietly by that methane lake, remember, the Titan is not the only place holding dreamlike secrets. Out there are still other moons, worlds of fire, of ice, of strangeness and stories. Each one is a small chapter in the long book of the universe. If you're ready to leave this soft orange sky behind, stand up very slowly. Take a long breath in and let Titan's light gently fade from your inner vision. We'll continue drifting as fate is wind to more turbulent worlds where flames leap toward the sky and ice splits beneath your feet. As the orange haze of Titan slowly dissolves from your imagined eyelids, the space around you grows darker again, wider again, like closing one page of a book to open another. There is a brief, mysterious pause, like the silence between two musical notes. You can still feel Titan's gentle chill lingering around you, but it fades, steps back, and makes room for another sensation. A feeling at once overwhelming and safe, as if the universe were whispering, "There is more to see. Don't rush. Just keep floating." And in that dimness, you notice that you are inside the cabin of a ship, drifting silently through space. No shaking, no engine noise, only the soft sound of your own breathing in the quiet. Through the wide window, a fierce glow appears in the distance, like a small ember burning far away, signaling our next destination. Theo. People often call Io the moon of fire, but in truth, that phrase is still too gentle. Io is a world trapped in constant upheaval, never asleep, never finished with remaking itself. From the ship, you would see bright red and orange spots scattered across its surface like enormous burn marks. Plumes of lava can erupt hundreds of kilometers high, like towering candles of fire thrust into the black sky. But don't be afraid. We are only observers watching from a great distance, completely safe. Like watching a volcano through thick glass. You only receive its beauty and vitality, not its heat or fury. Let your eyes follow a glowing stream of lava, crawling slowly across a dark plain. That red river flows outward, cools, and hardens, as though the ground were writing a new layer of memory onto itself. Io is always changing, always rewriting. Like an artist who never stops painting. Then the cabin slowly turns, and the fiery canvas of Io sinks back into shadow, making way for a pale, icy blue light. This is Triton, the wandering captive that Neptune pulled from the outer reaches of the solar system. If Io is fire, Triton is ice, but not a silent, motionless ice. Triton's surface is smooth, as if an invisible hand has swept it clean. And from what look like small cracks, liquid nitrogen bursts upward in towering geysers, stretching for kilometers into the thin sky, spreading out like delicate fans of mist in the dim light. These plumes are like the moon's own breath, each eruption a gentle whisper. I'm still alive. I'm still moving. Our ship glides quietly above, and the nitrogen fountains rise beneath you, light as smoke, cold as moonlight collected in the air. In that moment, you might feel like you're flying through a silver dream, where the cold doesn't sting, it simply settles over your spirit like a thin blanket. And then, the deep dark opens once again. The cavern carries us onward to a place where beauty is not born from fire or ice, but from fracture, strangeness, and scars so wild they become almost poetic. Miranda, can you imagine a moon that looks as though it's been pieced together from broken fragments? Like a toy that fell to the floor, then was picked up and reassembled by a child's hands. That is Miranda. Its cliffs are so tall that if someone were to slip and fall from the top, it would take long minutes to reach the bottom, a depth that makes you hold your breath without realizing. And yet, from far away, everything looks incredibly peaceful. The cabin drifts past, and you see ridges and cracks, patches of terrain stacked and folded like stretched fabric. The weak sunlight, so far from the center of the solar system, casts long shadows down those cliffs, like a winter afternoon that never ends. Then another part of the picture comes into view: Charon, Pluto's largest companion. Charon is less dramatic than Io, less mysterious than Triton, less shattered than Miranda, but it has a quiet majesty of its own. Its canyons open like enormous gates leading into a realm no one has ever entered. The ground is gray, cold, still, as if asleep. Many regions look as though nothing has moved there in billions of years, and that very stillness softens the viewer, as if Charon were gently saying, "Not every place in the universe needs noise in order to exist." Our ship glides on, and through the window, 4 extreme worlds: fiery Io, icy-breathing Triton, torn Miranda, and solemn Charon, pass slowly in sequence, like 4 pages being turned in a fairy tale written in rock and light. And in all of this wildness, chaos, and strangeness, there is something most beautiful of all. It is all happening very far away. We are only soft observers, sitting in a warm cabin, watching through a thick window like watching a storm from inside a quiet house at night. No danger, no threat, only scenes unfolding in slow motion before your eyes, giving your mind room to soften, to expand, to rest. Let this moment sink into you, like a breath slowing down, like eyelids growing a little heavier, like your heart quieting by one gentle beat. Because when we leave these extreme worlds behind, we will arrive at a smaller, sweeter corner of the universe. The strange, lopsided little moons. Crooked, charming, each with its own personality, like toys carved by the hand of space itself. As the imaginary door slowly closes behind our journey through these intense realms of fire and ice, where Io flares like great red tempests, Triton exhales cold white plumes of nitrogen, Miranda lies torn like a patched-up memory, and Charon sinks into endless dusk. You may feel your mind settle a bit, as though, after watching all these grand scenes, the universe wants to give you a softer interlude, a gentler gift. And in that quiet, just ahead of the ship's window, round, misshapen, endearing shapes drift into view. No more raging fire, no more towering ice, just small bodies floating in space, like toys someone has absent-mindedly left behind in the nursery of the cosmos. You might find yourself smiling, just a tiny smile, but enough to melt away the thin layer of tension still clinging to you. Because where we're going next feels like a toy shop in the middle of the galaxy. Imagine pushing open a door into a quiet little shop, where the shelves aren't made of wood but of soft light. On them there are no stuffed animals or model cars, but tiny moons instead, each one with a peculiar, charming shape of its own. Phobos drifts by first, like an old potato, full of cracks. Not beautiful in the usual sense, but deeply honest. It looks like an ancient stone, carrying the marks of thousands of impacts, and strangely, when you look at it like that, you feel a kind of peace. Perhaps because Phobos isn't trying to be perfect, it simply exists, quietly drifting toward Mars, moving a little closer each year. One day it will be torn apart into a ring of dust or fall onto the surface of the red planet. But tonight, it is just here, gentle and silent, close enough for us to observe, far enough that we don't feel afraid. And then another little toy floats into view. Pan, the cosmic ravioli. If you saw Pan for the first time, you might think it isn't a real object in the solar system at all, but a pastry someone shaped by hand, with a soft, puffed edge. In truth, that raised rim comes from Pan sweeping up dust from Saturn's rings, as if it had brushed lightly across a giant cake and carried away crumbs clinging to its outer edge. The sight makes it look so adorable that you might want to reach out and touch it. But no, just imagining it is more than enough. To the left of Pan, another body tumbles into view, spinning like a giant sponge. That is Hyperion. It has no fixed shape, no regular rotation. It flips and rolls whenever, however it wants, like a mischievous child spinning around in an open yard. The hollows and pits across its surface make it look like a big, half-chewed sponge in pale brown. But instead of feeling chaotic, it somehow feels gentle. Because even in that unpredictability, Hyperion still drifts along in a very mild, very harmless way. Then the smaller moons follow in a quiet line. Deimos, a calm, humble rock. Himalaya, loosely shaped, nothing particularly special about it other than the fact that it exists. Some other moons are simply large pebbles caught in the gravitational arms of their planets. And perhaps it is exactly this lack of specialness that makes them so endearing. They are not as radiant as Titan, not as mysterious as Europa, not as intense as Io. They are just little companions, quietly circling their homes, day after day, year after year. And in that moment, you feel your heart soften, because the universe, no matter how unimaginably vast, still makes room for small things, for tiny moments that make you want to smile just a little. Just like our lives, even on stormy days, we still encounter tender moments, simple details that warm us from the inside out. Let your breath become as soft as the light drifting past your eyes. Breathe in slowly, hold for a moment, exhale very gently, and remember, inside you, there are also little cute regions. Small corners that don't need to be perfect, don't need to be dazzling. They only need to be seen with a gentle gaze. These moons, Phobos, Pan, Hyperion, Deimos, Himalaya, exist like forgotten toys that never lost their value. They are a quiet reminder that in this vast universe, sometimes the most comforting things are the small, crooked, ordinary ones. The ones that feel like home. As these tiny, lopsided, lovable moons drift out of sight, the floating potatoes, the tumbling sponges, the dangling cosmic ravioli, you may feel your mind being gently soothed. Their quirky shapes are like the universe reaching out to tap you lightly on the shoulder, reminding you that not everything has to be serious or grand or intense. Sometimes, a touch of adorableness is enough. And then, while you're still smiling softly at the thought of Pan or Hyperion, the space in front of you slowly opens up. The little toys quietly retreat into the background, making room for a new, more wondrous, more solemn scene. As if someone had just blown out the candle in a small room and suddenly pulled back a curtain to reveal an entire theater behind it. There, the dancers of the sky begin to appear. Let me invite you to imagine this. A dance floor, as wide as an entire planetary system, dark and deep like the bottom of an ocean. There is no music, yet there is rhythm. There are no spotlights, yet faint glowing orbits arc through the dark like circles drawn in chalk, floating in the night. Each moon is a dancer. Each motion is a step taken without gravity. Each orbit is a long, slow breath of time. From afar, you see soft rings of light circling their planets. But if you move closer, very close, you begin to sense that each orbit carries a whispered story, a gentle tempo, a heartbeat all its own. First, there are the moons that always keep one side facing their planet, like a loyal friend who never looks away. Scientists call this tidal locking. But tonight, you don't need the name. You only need the feeling. Imagine a moon holding its gaze forever on a giant planet. It doesn't turn its face away. It doesn't look around. It simply keeps watching, as if its whole existence was born for that single, quiet act. Soft, eternal, unforced, like the way we sometimes connect with someone so deeply that words are no longer necessary. Farther out, along Jupiter's paths, 3 dancers move in a special rhythm. Io, Europa, and Ganymede. If Io's orbit is one musical note, then Europa is the next note at twice the beat, and Ganymede is the emphasized note that comes after. 1, 2, 4. A perfect choreography lasting billions of years. This cosmic rhythm squeezes and releases these moons, heating them from within, melting them, reshaping them, like an invisible hand gently kneading the rock beneath their surfaces. A rhythm that never falters, like a meditation chant that began in the universe's earliest days and has continued steadily ever since. And then, there are 2 very peculiar dancers, Janus and Epimetheus, 2 small moons of Saturn, orbiting so close you'd think they might collide, but they never do. From time to time, when they draw near, they swap places. Gently, like 2 friends taking each other's hands, spinning once, then gliding past, each continuing along a slightly different path. No sound, no impact, no chaos. A tender reminder that in life, sometimes we meet someone, walk alongside them for a stretch, and then part ways, each going in our own direction. Yet the meeting itself remains beautiful, enough to lighten the heart. There are other moons that are more stubborn. They orbit backwards, as if challenging their planet. Or they wander too close until gravity slowly pulls them into a final embrace. You can imagine that curved path tightening closer and closer until the moon is torn apart and becomes a soft ring of dust. A sad moment, perhaps, but also very beautiful, like the final leaf falling from a branch, quietly accepting its return to the earth. More frightening than the moment where the city stopped breathing. And as you sit here, in this gentle, imagined space, you may realize that the orbits of moons are not so different from the orbits of our own lives. Sometimes we circle very near to someone. Sometimes we drift away. There are people who always seem to face us, like tidal locking. There are others who travel with us for only a small stretch, like Janus and Epimetheus. Sometimes we are stretched by life, like Io, Europa, and Ganymede. Sometimes we are still and full, like the moon on a quiet, clear night. But no matter what, we can still discover a rhythm that is our own, a peaceful orbit, a breath that is steady, slow, and gentle. Try taking a deep breath in, holding it for a moment, and then breathing out very slowly, like a small moon drifting calmly along its own path. When you begin to feel that rhythm inside your body, in your breath, inside your mind itself, we can gently step into the next part of our journey. A place where moons leave delicate marks on the rings of planets, like fine strokes of time. Now, close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself floating at the edge of a distant planetary system. The space around you is wide open, quiet enough that you could almost hear your own slow heartbeat. From there, the planet ahead appears like a giant jewel, wrapped in a scarf of light, thin, soft, and shimmering. Those rings are not still, they sway like breath, like ripples on a lake when a small fish glides beneath the surface. And then you realize, those scars of light are not woven from mist or sunbeams, but from the moons themselves. Small satellites that have spent millions of years carving their gentle signatures across the sky. People call them shepherd moons, the keepers of the rings. With a light but precise gravity, they shape Saturn's rings into lanes, gaps, and sharp edges, like embroidered borders on a silken cloth. Each pass they make is a touch, and each touch becomes a curve you can see from afar. And it doesn't stop there. From the darkness, another ring appears, the E-ring. This is the gift Enceladus gives to space. Jets of water and ice launched from its south pole, thrown so high they escape its gravity, then break apart into billions of tiny particles that form a ring as soft as breath. You can imagine that eruption sounding like a very small stream in a nighttime forest. Not loud, not wild, just enough to let you know that something vibrant is still happening in the midst of silence. Farther out, around Jupiter and other planets, small moons scatter their rocky dust into space. Not forcefully, not on purpose, just as a result of minor impacts, meteor strikes, fragments of time breaking off. And yet, those dust grains, gathered together, become faint rings, like pencil lines sketched lightly around the wide page of the universe. Some moons are so bright that if you stood on the surface of their planet, the light they reflect would be enough to cast your shadow on the ground, crisp and clear, like moonlight on fresh snow. But others are so dark that they resemble moving holes in the sky, swallowing every ray of light that touches them. In darkness that deep, they become secrets, secrets that only those who are willing to look long and patiently can feel. And as you gaze at those rings, delicate as threads stitched into the sky, try to listen to your own breathing, because every ring, every dust grain, every glow can become a tiny lesson in meditation. Our thoughts over a long day are very much like those cosmic dust particles, small, drifting, sometimes bright, sometimes faint, sometimes arriving only to float away again. Picture each thought as a speck of dust leaving your orbit, light as a feather, not needing to be held. Let it drift into the vast space around you, leaving your mind clearer, brighter, just as a tiny moon leaves behind a faint trace of light in the dark of the universe. And when your mind has started to settle like that, when you've begun to feel the fragile yet beautiful nature of these moon traces, we will continue drifting. Because in front of you, another journey is unfolding. A journey of seeing the moons from afar, from a vantage point humans rarely imagine. The viewpoint of space itself. We will travel there, very slowly. When those delicate rings of light slowly fade into the dark, and the cosmic dust drifts away like the last thoughts of the day leaving the shore of your mind, the whole space around us seems to become even quieter. A gentle kind of quiet, just enough for you to realize that every moon, whether tiny or radiant, has left small dots on the canvas of the universe. Dots not only to be admired, but to be reflected upon. And right within that stillness, we step into a new chapter. A chapter where moons are no longer just objects, but become teachers. Storytellers with endless patience, always waiting for humans to come a little closer and learn. Imagine you are sitting in a very quiet classroom. There is no blackboard, no wooden desks, only the warm darkness of the universe wrapped all around you. Your teachers tonight are not people, but the planets, silently turning, and the small moons floating alongside them. Each celestial body is like an old storyteller, slowly opening ancient pages that humanity has only begun to read a few lines of. In that tranquil classroom, Galileo appears, like the very first student who dared to lift his head and look out the window of the cosmos. When he saw the 4 large moons of Jupiter circling that giant ball of gas, our view of the world shook. For the first time, we understood that Earth is not at the center, that the sky does not revolve around us, that we are only a small part of a dance far larger than we ever imagined. From Jupiter, that lesson reaches all the way out to the colder regions, the moon systems around Pluto, Haumea, or Eris Isaki marbles, living at the farthest edge of the solar system. Out there, tiny moons tell stories of ancient collisions, of mutual capture, of orbits that have wrapped around each other for billions of years. They teach us that sometimes the smallest things hold within them the biggest stories. And beyond our solar system, scientists are searching for exomoons, moons circling planets out there where the light of our sun is nothing more than a faint white speck. Those worlds may hold oceans, atmospheres, cold volcanoes, or geological forms that human imagination has not yet reached. Each of those celestial bodies is like a chapter of a book, blown by the wind to our classroom door, awakening questions we never thought we would ask. From a closer perspective, the familiar moons, such as our own moon, or Phobos Deimos of Mars, or Titan, Ganymede, carry a very different lesson, the lesson of the future. One day, humans may build research stations on Titan, extract water from Europa, or raise the first base on the moon to prepare for journeys even farther out. Those moons are like rest stops along the cosmic road, places where we can pause, learn, and then continue on. And finally, as with all gentle lessons of the universe, the message lies in slowness. There is no need to understand everything right now. No need to grasp every moment the instant you hear it. The universe does not rush anyone. It has waited billions of years to be seen, and it will keep on waiting. Tonight, in this moment when you are lying quietly in your small bed, the universe only wants to remind you of one thing. You are safe. You are wrapped in vastness, but never truly lost. And we will continue to the final lesson in the next part. And then, when that quiet classroom turns the last page, when the lessons from Galileo, from fiery Io, from softly amber Titan, from the tiny moons at the edge of the solar system, slowly dissolve into the calm of the night, you may feel something very light shifting inside you, as if you yourself have just completed a long journey, a journey of learning not through tense thinking, but through slowly opening your heart to the gentle beauty of the cosmos. That vastness begins to shrink down, like a book slowly closing its cover, bringing you back to where you really are, your familiar room, a slow breath, a body that is gradually sinking deeper into softness. And in that fragile moment of transition, where scientific stories turn into a very tender breeze, we quietly step into the last part of tonight. The part where everything is allowed to drift away, and your mind is allowed to rest completely. Now let me guide you back into the journey within your own breath. We have wandered past so many moons, our familiar moon, the hidden oceans of Europa, the glittering ice plumes of Enceladus, the hazy orange of Titan, the extreme worlds of fiery Io, freezing Triton, and the strange little moons like Pan, Hyperion, Phobos. Each place is its own musical note: burning fire, cracking ice, hidden water, drifting dust, soft light, deep shadow, all blending into a symphony that only the universe itself could compose. Now let's slow down, really slow down. Let your body be allowed to breathe, as if it has never had to hurry. We will count together. 5. Feel your hands let go. 4. Your shoulders drop, light as if touching a cloud. 3. Your jaw softens. Your eyes grow warm and heavy. 2. Your chest opens in one deep breath. 1. Everything else melts into stillness. Imagine you are a small moon, drifting in your own stable orbit. No collisions, no chaos. Only the wide sky holding you with a gentle glow. Just enough for you to feel that you exist, but not so bright that it keeps you awake. Around you, the stars sparkle like distant whispers. And all the worries of today, let them drift away like little rocks leaving your orbit, quietly dissolving into the vastness, leaving no trace at all on your mind. Tonight, your brain is allowed to wander among the moons we just visited, not to remember or analyze, but simply to dream. If your eyes start to droop, if your breaths grow longer than usual, that is the universe gently guiding you into sleep. And before you sink down completely, I just want to send you a wish, light as a passing breeze. May you sleep peacefully, deeply, tenderly. When you're ready, let your very last thought drift away, and let sleep come to you like soft light, wrapping around a small moon. Sleep well.